Hello everyone. I've spent the past few weeks working on a level that I think is pretty cool. Its features are chosen depending on a seed that you input at the beginning. It's like the random level I showed in my video on the 2.2 editor, except you can play the same level multiple times if you want, and it's compatible with 2.1, meaning you don't have to wait an eternity for the next update to be released before you can play it. I'd also say it's a similar concept to Serponge's Master game, except flipped around. I'm going to spend the first half of this video pretty much listing off what I included in the level, and then I'm going to spend the second half explaining how the trigger mechanics behind the level work. I left a link in the description to an unlisted video where I play through the level, just for anybody who wanted to see what it looks like before watching the rest of the video. As I'm assuming you saw, the level starts off with this screen where you can either enter a seed or hold down for a random one. The screen shows for about 14 seconds before it fades away and the level begins. The wait was originally going to be shorter, but I wanted to make sure that you could easily enter the seed before the level begins, and it's better to have too much time than not enough. If you get tired of waiting the whole 14 seconds every time the level restarts, you can enable low detail mode to shorten the wait to 5 seconds. If you die at any point in the level, your seed is briefly shown to you before the level restarts in case you want to re-enter it. The level's gameplay is divided into 18 different segments, with each segment having a different amount of possibilities. I'll quickly go over each of the 18 segments and point out anything worth noting in them. This is a generic cube part. However, it's worth noting that the level's color is chosen depending on your seed. Another generic cube part. This part could be any of these 5 game modes depending on your seed. Again, this segment could be one of 5 game modes depending on your seed. Generic robot part at this speed. What do you even call that speed? 0.5 speed? Generic cube part at normal speed. However, depending on your seed, a random word will pop out of the ground at the end. This isn't here for any reason besides the fact that I thought it would be funny. Ship part at 2 times speed that's mostly normal, besides the fact that you have a 1 in 10 chance of getting a straight fly, so I apologize in advance for that. Generic wave part. Generic UFO part. The first half of this is a generic mini UFO part, and the second half contains the first coin. It's hidden behind one of these 3 squares, and the square it's hidden behind depends on your seed. Also, the 2 non-coin squares have a solid block behind them, so they will kill you if you hit them from the side. If you want to collect this coin, you'll either have to play on a seed that you know where the coin is or just guess every time. Auto cube part. Another auto cube part. This cube part is based off of the 4 concepts I've shown on the channel thus far, except for the spider orb because it was giving me problems. Another cube part based off of those 4 concepts. Generic ball part at 2 times speed. Another pretty generic ball part, but each possibility contains a key that you must collect in order to unlock the second coin. Generic spider part at 3 times speed. This is the final part. It's a spider part at 4 times speed that has a second coin hidden within it. As mentioned before, you must have picked up the key in order to collect the coin. You may be wondering, wait, that was the final part, then where do you get the third coin from? Right before the level ends, you're awarded the third coin if you completed the level using a randomly generated seed as opposed to one that you manually entered. It's worth noting what the level considers a random seed. If you leave the seed at its default, it's not considered a random seed. If you generate a random seed but then change it afterwards, it's not considered a random seed. It's only considered a random seed if you randomly generate it and then leave it alone. After the third coin, a credit screen is displayed and then the level ends. Now that I've gone over the level's contents, I'll explain how this whole thing works. I was expecting this to be difficult to build, but it surprisingly didn't involve anything that complicated. For the most part, it only involved toggle, pickup, count, and instant count triggers. These are the 3 mechanics I'll be going over in this video. The seed input screen is the most simple out of all of these. It uses 6 item IDs to store the information needed, 5 of which store the value of each digit, while the other one keeps track of which digit is currently selected. When the player clicks the left side of the screen, the item ID keeping track of which digit is selected increases by 1. When the player clicks the right side of the screen, the value of the previously mentioned item ID tells the game which digit should be increased. Also, I use count triggers to detect when any of these values reach its maximum, so it could be reset. That's pretty much all I have to say about the seed input screen, so let's move on to the randomizer. The randomizer was built off of something I saw on GD Gnome's channel, so credit for this idea goes to him. It pretty much works by rotating through different numbers at a very fast rate, and then having the player click at some point to stop the rotation. Since the rotation is so fast, it would be difficult to click with the same precision every time you played the level, which essentially leads to randomization. Although this method isn't perfect, it's the best method we have until 2.2 is released. In this example, the level is rotating through seeds at approximately 100 new ones every second. When you press down your mouse button, the level begins to keep track of how long it's been held down for. Once you release it, if you've held it down for long enough, the seed rotation stops. The seed that it stopped on is then added to your current seed. Unfortunately, there isn't a way to add one item ID to another, so I was forced to check for each individual value that each item ID could have, and then use pickup triggers to add that amount to the actual seed. Now I'll go over the last thing I want to talk about, the method by which the seed you input outputs the level you play. This probably isn't the best method of doing this, but it's the method I came up with and it worked fine for me. As I mentioned before, each segment contains a certain amount of possibilities. Every possibility has its own unique number assigned to it, although some may have multiple. The level decides which possibility is chosen by taking anywhere from 2 to 4 digits of the seed and adding them together. If the digit in the sum's ones place corresponds with the possibility's assigned number, or one of its assigned numbers, then that possibility is chosen. Since I understand that my wording of that was horrible, I'll give a few examples. I'll be using the example of the level's color. There are 9 possible colors for the level to choose from, with each color having a unique number assigned to it. The color green also has the number 0 assigned to it. The level decides which color to choose by adding the first 2 digits of the seed together. Let's say that our seed was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The level would start by adding 1 and 2 together to get 3. Then, since the number 3 was assigned to yellow, the color yellow would be chosen. Now let's pretend that our seed was a string of 9s. The first 2 digits of the seed would be added together to arrive at 18. However, the level only pays attention to the number in the ones digit, which in this case would be 8. As a result, the color gray would be chosen. Hopefully it makes more sense now. Anyway, that's all I really had to say about the level output method, and I guess all I had to say about the level in general. If you want to look at the trigger mechanics behind this yourself, you can find the level using the ID in the description and make a clone of it. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Bye!